So now you've downloaded and installed your software, and it's time to take a look at how to configure Fldigi to operate. I'm going to quickly take you through all of the menus in my standard configuration so you can see them. First thing we want to look at is Files, and if you hit the Folders and come over, you'll notice that these Fldigi config, FLMSG, and NBEMS files, these are all the locations for your files, just so you know that. What we're interested in looking at is data files. In the wizard, this is the fourth page that comes up, and all you do when this comes up is hit update, and it will update all of the databases that reside in Fldigi. So hit update and then close out of this. The next thing we want to look at is the main configure menu. Basically, just hit configure and hit operator, and that opens up the menu. You'll notice all these tabs across the top are basically all the items in that menu. I'm going to take you through each one by one so that you can see all of the pages in this config. I'm just going to show you a few seconds of some of the pages, so if you need to hit pause to take a good look at the way it's set up, please feel free to do that. Under operator, just go ahead and put your call sign, your station location, your locator, operator call sign. Under operator name, just put your first name. We don't use last names when we're doing transmissions, and include your antenna. The next thing we want to look at is UI, or user interface. You'll notice there's a second row of tabs, so this is the second level under UI. The first one is Browser, and you can see the settings there. The next one is General. When you click on General, there's several things you want to make sure that you do. Make sure that Show Timer is checkmarked and all of the exit prompts are checkmarked. Uncheck the updates because it's not pointing to the correct location right now, so just leave that unchecked. You'll have to manually check for updates. One thing I do suggest as a new user is that you have show tooltips so that when you highlight over something, it comes up and shows you a tooltip like you see there. So go ahead and check that, and that'll help you with learning what different things are. The next one is log. You notice we have a tertiary, or third level of tabs. And so these are the settings under log. I've not changed any of these. These are the basic default settings that come with the program. And I'm just clicking through these so that you can see all of the ones what the defaults are. Next thing we want to look at is context. Again, these are the default settings. I've not changed any of these, so that's what they look like. The next one is macros. This is one you do want to make some changes in. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. You can choose any of the layouts. I'm going to show you how to put all four rows of macros up. And so you can choose any of these, but at the bottom you do want to check last load and prompt to save. So make sure those two are checked so that it will load the last ones you were using. The waterfall controls, none of those are checked. Control and fonts, this is basically, you'll notice there's a whole tertiary row in this one too, and this is the receive and transmit windows. These windows, the colors and fonts, I increased the sizes so they're easier for me to read, so you can see that they look a little different. Frequency, that's up here at the top. And you can see what that looks like. These are all just custom colors and fonts. You can change them to anything that you want. For logging, the information on those, I don't know if I made any changes in those at all. The function keys, just leave these like they are. For tabs, just leave that alone. Buttons, the one thing I did change, this is defaulting to red when it's on the passband. I changed it to yellow so that it actually comes up yellow instead of red. Red looks like something that's dangerous, needs to be changed. I like it being yellow, so you're just selecting the colors for the particular indicator lights beside the button. Last one is signal level. Just look at this, and when you look at the signal level at the bottom right hand corner of the page, that's what these colors indicate. So just kind of look at that, so when you see the colors you recognize how your signal level, audio levels in Fldigi, the incoming levels, if they're too high or normal or high or low or whatever, that's what that indicates. So I'll go back to the tertiary level, the second level, and hit touch. There's no lower buttons, and this is all default. So we'll come back up here and move along at the very top row for the waterfall. The first one's display. I'd go ahead and check both of these. I actually want to see the outgoing signals when I make them. If you want to change any of the colors, you're welcome to, but those are the defaults, and I normally keep those. FFT processing. This is going to set up the lower and upper limits of the what's on the waterfall. Sometimes I like to run these around 300 so that I don't actually see the lower part, and you can see where it kind of cuts it out. Because I'm not using anything really lower than 500 anyway. So 300, 3500, that's fine. As we make any of these changes, make sure that you hit the save button after you do that to actually save the changes. You can change it here, but if you don't hit save, it won't get saved. So we're going to go ahead and leave that at 300. That's what I suggest you put it at. Next one's mouse. This is just default, and you can leave it like it is. Next thing is modems. We're going to look at those. Again, there's a series, CW, there's general, the timing, and QSK. These are all just the default. I don't think I've made any changes in any of these. Come up to DOM as the next one. I did put my call sign in there. The field, I didn't make any changes to this. Don't make any of the held transmit parameters. FSQ, I don't think I made any changes to that. These are all default settings. The same as with IFKP. They made no changes here. The one thing you want to look at is the next one, MT63. This is going to be a mode we're going to use a lot. Make sure all of these are checked and it's listed as it is here. The other one that we use a lot is Olivia, which is right beside it, and these are the default parameters. Make sure everything's set up the way you see it there. These last few ones are just the other modes, and I don't make any changes to these. These are just a normal setup as far as what comes to default. So I'm just showing you these so you can see what mine is. See what the for TTY, the TX and RX and Synop. Again, those are all just the defaults that came. I've not made any changes. For Thor, I did go ahead and put my call sign in, so you can do that if you wish. Make sure you hit save on any changes you make. Last one is other. We've got 3 here. First one is nav, second one's weather facts, and third one is scam. I believe all these are the default parameters. I don't think I changed any of those. So let's move on to rig. That's our next major category. Rig control is very specific to your rig and which method you want to use it. FLRig, RigCat, ham library, XMRPC are all different ways that you can control your rig. So depending on your rig will depend on what you're doing here. FLRig is a software that you can get with Fldigi, and you can use that if you want to. The RigCat and ham library. Ham library is what I actually use, and the library is already built in to here. You just go in and find your radio. In case mine's the Kenwood TS2000, click on that. Make sure that you have the correct COM port chosen and the correct baud rate. The baud rate in my radio is defaults 9600, and that's what it's set to. Once you get those set, you check the check mark on use it, and then you initialize it. If the check mark stays check marked, then it's operational, and usually you get an indicator on your radio showing it. And at that point, anything you do on the radio shows up in the windows, and any changes you make, you're controlling it. The one beside it, RigCat, is a little different. The XML file doesn't reside on your computer or part of the software. You have to go to the Fldigi site and download your particular radio's RigCat XML file. So you have to go to SourceForge and download your file and then put it on your computer and open it from there. The same things about COM port and baud rate will be in effect. And again, to use it, you just click on Use RigCat and initiate it. If it stays check marked, then you're good. So those are those 2 main ways, and it's just trial and error until you see that you can get one that'll work. This is a different rig control for external use. You won't be using that more than likely. Hardware push to talk. If you're using a signal link, you're just going to let the signal link be the push to talk. So we don't check any of these. If you actually want this Fldigi to control push to talk through your serial connection, you can set that up here. And then GPI, oh, this is the PI specific controls, and I'm not using that at all, so it's not listed for anything. Next thing we want to look at is one of the other major items you have to set up. Under audio, the first tab is devices. This will be one of the wizard items that comes up initially. You have to check port audio. We're going to use this audio, and then you do have to select your audio source. In my case, it's a signal link. Signal link always comes up as USB audio codec, so you choose that. So the in and out audio input and then playback, the output going out, you have to select those two. Those have to be there. Make sure you hit save when you do that. The next tab is settings. If you do error correction, then you can add that in here. But basically, you can just leave this as is. On right channel, you can just leave all this as is. On wave, I think it defaults to something else. I use 44100, so I did change that. So those are the settings under audio. Under ID, this is where we set up the Reed-Solomon information. Basically, on the first tab, the RSID, make sure that search is pass spam and mark previous frequency mode. You want both of those checked. I do put a 2-second pre-signal tone in. You don't have to do this. If you use repeaters that linked up, it's good to have 2 seconds in there. I normally run it with 2 seconds, but that's not necessary. It can be 0 here, and you can leave it like that. One thing to look at on the receive modes and also on the transmit modes, if you click on the receive modes, you will see all of the modes that are basically selected that are used for the Reed-Solomon. The easiest way to do this is just to hit select all and then come down to the BPSK31 and unselect that. We do not use the RSID for PSK31. It's wider than the actual frequency, plus there's so much going on in the band you don't want your waterfall jumping around chasing other people's IDs. So as a general, we never use PSK31. Just be aware of that. When you get it the way you want, hit close. Again, transmit modes are the same way. These is what you're actually going to transmit. Uncheck null and uncheck CW. We're not going to do either one of those. And also uncheck PSK31 and close that. So that's the setup for using the Reed-Solomon IDs. For video, just leave this as is. You're not going to use it. And also for CW, you can leave with the stock. We won't be using that either. The next major tab is miscellaneous. If you've got a slow computer, you can check this. It will help you deal with that. The next tab is NBEMS. This is a critical tab. You have to set all of these in your system. What I suggest you do as a new user is go ahead and check Open Message Folder. When FLMSG is used, it will automatically open the folder and show you where it's putting the file. And until you get used to where files are located, that's a good option for a new user. So select all of these. You also have to give the path to the FLMSG program. On my computer, which is a Windows 7, it's on the C drive and the program's x86 folder, and then there's an FLMSG folder, and then I'm clicking on the FLMSG executable file. So when you click on locate it, you can open it up and search for that. The important thing is that you have the most current version of FLMSG in this line. Every time you upgrade FLMSG to a newer version, you have to go in and change this executable to the current one so that it starts up the most current program. You can actually have multiple copies of FLMSG on your computer, but you want it to do the most current version. So that's how you set that up, and make sure that you get these set up. After you use the system for a while, you may want to uncheck this once you learn where it's putting files so that that doesn't automatically pop open. So again, this is the way you want it to look. PSK mail, just leave it on these all on the defaults for spotting. Leave all those as they are. For sweet spot, change this to 1500 on both of these. We want to default to the 1500 location for all that we're doing, and so when you open up a particular mode, it will default to that location on the waterfall, and we want it to do that. The text, just leave this as is. TTMF, leave that as is. For weather, for the Knoxville weather, it's KTYS. You can search on the web to get this code, but this will bring up your local weather for your macros, and then you can choose how much weather you want it to insert. You can see what I have here. It's kind of a good compromise. I don't want the full report with all of this stuff if I'm sending somebody a weather report. So you can see what I have checked. Just use it as you like. KML is the last one. Again, this will just leave as default, is fine. Next thing we want to do is web. We do the call lookup. What happens is when you push this button up here, I'll show you when I'll close this window here. I've got a call sign that I pulled out of the stream and put in here, and when you hit the little world button up here, it will go and populate it off of the web, and you do want it to do that. Where you select that is in this lower database lookup. So you can have it actually look up a database you're paying for or one of these two free ones at the end. I have this free one, call lookup info, selected right now. And you can see where all I did is when I hit the world indicator, it looked it up and inserted that person's information, which is really handy. If you wanted to actually open up a full web browser page like QRZ, if you're a member, you can actually open up the full page and it'll take you to that person's page, and then you can get more information that way. I leave it on none. So this is how I have mine set up. You can do it as you wish, but it's a very nice handy feature, especially when you're using PSK31 and you're trying to identify information about people that you're conversing with. If you use EQSL, this is a setup for that. And if you use Low to the World, there's a setup for that. I'm not using either one of those. Next major tab is Auto Start. These are the programs when you start Fldigi, it will auto start these programs. I was using Rig for a while, so this is in here, but you'll notice it's not enabled. Even though I have the path, you click on Locate to go find the correct executable, and then it saves it here, but you have to hit Enable for it to actually work when you start the program. There's a test button so that you can see if it actually brings up the program. FLAMP is one of the 4 softwares we downloaded, and you do want this to start up FLAMP. FLAMP, which is the file transfer software, will not automatically key itself up when it sees an incoming file. It has to already be open. So we want that to auto start. The other thing that I use a lot is the Darkwood digital level meter. You'll notice it's over here, and I want that to open every time I have Fldigi. I use that a lot and I'm real happy with it. So this is just a separate program. So this will auto start any programs that you want to auto start when you start Fldigi to run. Next tab is the I/O tab. Basically, you can just leave this as is and locked up. This is all the default settings for all of these items. The very last tab is PSM, which is the power signal monitor. This has just been added recently. One thing I do want to show you is if you want the power button to be on the Fldigi interface, if you click on it and then come over and look, you can see that it adds it beside the squelch. And when you click on that, if you're just going to let the system run all day and not be supervised, you want to use PSM to monitor signals. It will do some automatic adjustment that way. I'm not using that, so again, I leave it unchecked so the button's not there. So I don't need it on the Fldigi interface at this point. So again, when you make any of these changes, make sure you hit save, and when done, you can close out. The next item we want to look at on the view is this one right here, the view hide 48 macros. If you click on that, it will change your interface so that you have 1 or 2 rows. When you click on that view, it will show you all 4 rows. And this is the way I love to run the macros. I want to see all of my macros because I actually need to get to quite a few of them at any given time. So I always run that with it open. The other thing I want to show you is a signal browser. You may have a little browser open up in the receive section, but if you hit signal browser here, it brings up the full separate window so that you can see all of the waterfall. Basically, this represents all of the waterfall, and you can see image signals going across if we were watching like PSK31. Then all you do is click on the one that you want to talk to, then it will automatically move you on the waterfall. So that's handy to have. A couple last things for you to know is this waterfall at the very bottom, this docking scope. A lot of people can't figure out how to bring up this little scope here in the right hand corner at the bottom. If you want to have that scope, this is how you turn it on and off. So just be aware if you want that, that's where it is to find it.